Welcome back to Race Against the Sun, which is essentially what we're doing. It has been a few weeks since I got out, unfortunately. We're through to April hit hard with a couple different reasons. One of them, let's see, the last time I went out and recorded, we didn't have much luck finding wildlife at a wildlife reserve, funny enough. But I did go to a spot where I was like, all right, this is what I've read online, and I talked about the sage grouse and their mating dance. And I was like, I'll get back out here tomorrow and I'll try that or something along those lines, or I'll just keep going. And then I got a stomach bug and ran a fever and was throwing up all that night. Not great. So that killed the rest of that weekend. I had to take off from work because I was just, a fever completely wipes me from being able to even get out of bed, which is great. So then the next weekend we had some snow. I'm going to a new place. And I've actually discovered there's an app that I could put on my phone that when I plug my phone into the car, which I've never done, this is a fairly new car to me, that it can put Google Maps up on my dashboard, which is amazing because now I don't have to touch my phone or try to mount it or anything like that. I just have it right there. Perfect. So anyway, then we had snow on the following weekend. Then we had had to get turned around there and get on the interstate. Actually focus on the road, which is good. So we had, let's see, I was talking about why it's been several weeks since I've managed to get out. The first weekend, got a stomach bug, ran a fever, kept me out of work for a little bit. Second weekend, we had a bunch of snow. Didn't really encourage me to want to go out. I was going to, and then I started feeling under the weather again. Not really, I was just feeling tired. Not like sick. And then the third week, which was the last weekend that just happened, I went and got round 2 of the vaccine, and that gave me another fever, and that wore me out, and that made me miss work. And then I was just drained. My arm was dead, just shot. The muscles they're in absolutely no shape to try and carry anything, so there was no way to even push it. So brings us to this weekend. Now we're getting out. So what we will have to do going forward is get out a little bit earlier because I need to be out before the sun rises. If I get there after the sunrise, it's not quite as well, and the sunrise is a lot earlier here, which I have trouble getting up early enough as it is. I wake up, the alarm goes off at 5 and I snooze it once or twice because I don't actually get downstairs and clock in until 5:45, 6, somewhere in there. It's kind of relaxed. It's not a strict thing that I have to be by a certain time, which is really nice. So getting up at 5-ish allows the alarm to go off for me. My girlfriend also gets up at 5 and she goes and gets ready for work first because she actually has to be there by a certain time. And then I can kind of take my time after that. So getting up much earlier than that is what I'm accustomed to. I get up at 5, sometimes a little earlier, but it's not often. So getting up much earlier than that in order to be out, like you're talking about, it took me probably 45 minutes to get fully from waking up to in the car ready to go. So push that back even further, the sunrise is going to get to a point where it will start rising at 5:30 here, which earlier than I would have guessed, but that's what it is. So then you're talking about if I need to be out, like for example, the sage grouse is kind of what I'm setting in my opinion now, in my head, and they've got specific rules because of an endangered species, where you got to be there an hour before sunrise, fully an hour before sunrise, so that you don't disturb anything that's coming up as it, like sunrise is when stuff starts happening and going, so got to be out for that. So then you're talking about being somewhere at 4:30, getting up at like 3:30, and boy, that I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is go out the night before and stay overnight in my car, and then already be out there, and I don't have to wake up quite as early, and I have a feeling I won't sleep quite as well, so should be fine. So I've ordered some stuff to kind of make the back there a little more comfortable, and I'll stack some stuff in different ways, and then got a sleeping bag, got a pillow, some stuff like that. So that's what we'll start doing. I might start that next weekend. This stuff is still coming in the mail that I ordered. I'm not doing a lot of talking, I'm doing a lot of looking around. I've never been here before. I've never come out this side of the town. And this is kind of a more north and west direction than I've gone before. So I've only been here a few months, and all the other times I've gone have taken me different areas, but I read up on this spot here. This is a reservoir. We're going to a different one. I expect there to be people there. It looks kind of nice from the pictures online, so we'll see how it goes, but just getting out and doing something is better than sitting at home for yet another weekend, not doing anything. I think that's it. I think it is time for me to just switch on some copywritten music and enjoy the rest of the drive. Okay, we're here. I'm going to try to be a little bit more quiet because there's just stuff all over. So far, no people, but I would not be surprised if this place gets much busier, especially on weekends. This is Friday, so hopefully less. But yeah, no, there's a lot of space here. This reservoir is huge, and I've already seen plenty. I mean, just driving up, I went, oh, what's that? And there's pelicans, and there's all kinds of waterfowl. I've parked, and I can hear songbirds. Probably, it sounds like right outside the car. I don't see them. They might be down in the brush or something. I don't know what kind yet. I can't identify them by their song just yet. I'm working on it. But I'm going to get out and try to get as far over as I can to get away from the parking lot area where people will be, because I am sure that there will be plenty of people out here fishing at the very least, maybe boating, I don't know. But let's get going.
Welcome to the editing room. This is typically where I just roll straight out of bed and come downstairs and edit on any day where I'm not working or if I'm out shooting actively. And this is the editing room floor. Apparently a lot of stuff gets left behind here, but I vacuum and clean pretty regularly, so I don't often find... Oh, a peanut. But anyway, the point of this is to provide a bit more context, some voiceover, talk about what I actually saw, because quite often, now that I've come to realize, I go out and I shoot, and then I get back in the car and I think a lot of thoughts, but I have no idea what I actually saw, what came out on video. I've not gotten home and had the opportunity to actually research what it is I was looking at, so I'm talking out of ignorance, if at anything, when I'm guessing. Here, I've actually had the time. It's about a month from when I actually shoot until when I'm doing all the editing, because I have a backlog that I go through and release clips regularly. Now I can actually look it up and go, oh, this is what this bird is. This is what was happening here. Let's jump into it.
So, let's jump into what I saw that day. One of the first things right off the bat, and I mentioned it before, was just a large flock of pelicans. These are American white pelicans, to be specific. And they were really far away. I still pushed it with the capabilities of the camera by switching to a smaller portion of the sensor and going 1080 instead of recording the full 4K, which, to be fair, unfortunately does not give me as good of quality. But it's hard to resist the urge to just crank that in and get it a little bit closer, because it looks good on the tiny little viewfinder when I'm out in the field. So here is just the scope of all of them. I managed to capture some in flight coming in for a landing, which I thought was really cool. And they do this thing where they immediately, after they land, they dip their beak in the water. See it here, I've got a solo. And as soon as he lands, he does the same thing where he dips his beak in the water. So, I mean, just in general, seeing pelicans was beyond my expectations, because you think pelican, you think the beach or a shore bird. Apparently not. I checked the map when I got home and I was looking. These are the American white pelicans, and yeah, I'm right in the middle of Wyoming. This is an area where it's kind of on the cusp, but they will be breeding in the spring and the summer here. And you can see, look at their beak here. There's this notch on the top of it, a knob kind of. It's
described as a fibrous plate on the upper mandible. That plate is apparently shed after the eggs are laid, and then instead of being pure white on the top, the crown and the nape of their neck will start turning into a gray color. Or if they're non-breeding, then they're all white and their bill isn't nearly as orange. Something else I saw, and this was the first time that I've ever seen such a bird, the black-necked stilt. This one in particular here is the male because it is black. The females are actually a bit more brown. This one has some brown tendencies to it, but overall it's black, so my guess is male. I find it fascinating the way that they dip down into the water to search for food. And you'll actually see they move pretty quick, and as soon as they lock onto something, they go for it. This is an out of focus back half of an American coot, which I filmed in slow motion and then later found out what it was I was looking at. Look at those water droplets. And after searching for focus for a while, I did eventually get it. This is identifiable to me as the book describes it as a whitish bill that has dark subterminal band. Which, yeah, if you look at the beak, you can see that there's dark there on it. It also has the red eyes and then a reddish brown forehead shield is what they call it there. It almost looks like it has a third eye right there, which is fascinating. Now, my guess here, and this is speculation, I don't have a way to fact check this, but if you look, it's awful fuzzy around the head, and usually waterfowl are very smooth. Their feathers tend to smooth out, as most of the ones that you'll see, so I'm guessing this is juvenile. And now this is something I found interesting, so let's play this back in a little bit slower so you can see the feet. They're not webbed, they're described as lobed toes, and look at the claws on it. Now, one of the ways that to kind of distinguish, the adult American coot has yellow legs, whereas a juvenile has black. And this is kind of a mix, so I feel like that kind of falls into my theory that this is a juvenile becoming an adult. It is somewhere in the teenage range. This one was another new one for me. I've not seen the common loon before, only saw him for just a second. Blip, right under he goes. Today really was just a whole flock of new birds to see. I'd never seen this one either. This is a horned grebe. And I did manage to watch it for a good bit. This one came pretty close, so I was able to get some decent slow-mo footage without blowing out the resolution. in the same family as the last one. This is the Western Grebe, I believe. A, I'm in the West, and B, Clark's Grebe is another one that I could be seeing that looks very similar, but it's got some defining characteristics that I think that it makes this one the Western, mostly the pattern around the face between the black and the white. This is what I'm talking about with pushing that past the limit where it even looks good. It just winds up becoming grainy, and it's just stretching too far with the reach of the camera. I got a little bit better focus on the second one that came into frame, but it is kind of all over the place, and especially you'll see the movement of the clip itself. I did the best that I could with stabilizing it after the fact here in post, but there's only so much you can do. But blip, right underwater. Finally, saving the best for last is this pair of American Avocet, A-V-O-C-E-T. Again, not something I'd ever seen before or was familiar with in the slightest. What the book tells me is really interesting is they've got this upturned beak right at the end. Apparently they use this to just sweep back and forth, side to side, in order to find food. They've got this lovely color to them with this orange, or it's described as a cinnamon in the book. And then in the winter, I'm hoping I'll get to see these again come winter, because they turn white. I managed to watch them for several minutes as they preened and fed, possibly. So now, while the book does say that they use the upturned beak to sweep back and forth, we can see here they're scavenging right now. They're looking, and one of them does dip their head straight into the water. Oh, might have just caught something right there. So now what we have here is some really interesting behavior, and this is purely why I am doing this. Getting out there, seeing interesting behavior that you wouldn't normally see unless you sit out for hours and hours on end, pointing a camera, hoping. The female's got her head right down on the surface of the water, and the male is making kind of a fuss around her. Right up until the moment where he jumps on her back, and a mating ritual? I'm not sure. I'm not an ornithologist, so I don't know if this is the entire length that it normally is, or if this was I swear this never happens like this. I'm not sure. But I do find it very interesting, the behavior afterwards. As soon as it's done, they kind of cross beaks and are walking together, and then they split and go opposite directions. Speaking on to why this is, it would be just guesses. I would love to discuss this with an actual ornithologist, someone who has gone to school for this, who could fill me in on more of the information. And that's about everything I have to share. Hopefully this was a little bit more of an actual useful bit of information, some more context into what we see with the research of going, this is what this bird is, this is what they're doing. This is a little bit more behind of what I got to research when I was editing the footage, as opposed to what we will now go back to, which is Michael from a month ago, just trying to process all of that information and not knowing what he's talking about. Alright, good reservoir, good place. There was quite a few hours since I got here, around 5 hours. But part of it was I decided to take 2 trips back. It was pretty far, and I just didn't feel like trying to carry everything in one like I did going there. Try to recount the day's events in order. We got here, looked around, decided a good spot would be pretty far over there where nobody would bother me. Walked out there. Should have paid a little bit more attention to where I was walking, as far as I got stuck in the mud. I looked at it and I went, yeah, that's probably fine. It looks dried enough. And it wasn't. And I got stuck and fell a little bit, and then had to pull my feet out of it and kind of wiggle back and forth, and it was I avoided it on the way back, and that's why I took 2 trips back. I brought just the bags the first trip and the blind, and then the second trip I went back and grabbed the tripod and the camera. So that probably took an extra 20-30 minutes, because it was a pretty good ways over there. But I saw plenty today. Yeah, this is a good spot for being able to see stuff. Not too crowded. Again, Friday. I assume Saturday is more crowded, but there's one group right now about to launch a boat. That's it right now. At this point, there were 3, 4, maybe more earlier, but nobody even came anywhere close to where I was. Everybody was over here, which is nice. Windy, very windy today, which is unfortunate. The blind got knocked all over the place, and it was
I set up the audio at one point, and then I realized I was like, all the audio is getting is the flapping of the blind because there's so much wind. So I'm gonna move it further down. Hopefully it's further away, but I don't know if any audio came out today, which is a shame because there was plenty of things to hear, lots of birds, this and that. I know I got good footage, and I'm happy about it with certain things. I don't know exactly what they were. That was the first time I've seen some of the waterfowl that were there, but they were ones that were diving under. It was kind of cute. I've never seen ones that would, like, some of them I've seen just go under. These ones would kind of jump and dive, and it was interesting. They would actually get a little bit of air before they would go under. This one in particular that I watched for a while. There's a huge group of pelicans. They were very far away though. As a matter of fact, thanks to Patreon, and the lovely people who support me on there, who give me some money to help me fund this, got me a rangefinder. Well, I bought a rangefinder with the money that has been coming in from that, which has been super useful. I was talking about this in a video that's already come out by now, because it was during the time period where I was talking about earlier of me not being able to film anything, not being able to go out. I just stayed home and edited and filmed some stuff there, and I went over all the equipment that I currently have. And this was one of the things where I was like, you know what would be cool but not necessary would be, instead of just binoculars, I could actually get something that would tell me about how far things are. So it's not that accurate. I know it's not that accurate. I bought the cheapest one I could get because they are, as it turns out, really expensive. But yeah, I think the furthest that we had was, I got a reading of 450 meters for the pelicans. So with that, and I'll put in some footage so you can see when I'm all the way zoomed as far as with the 300 and the 2x extender, so 600, that's what I can get that close, and then I can zoom in. And I did that a bit to kind of see what was going on with that. I took it from 4K to 1080 resolution, which means it takes the full sensor size and it shrinks it all the way down and then uses that to spring it up. So you zoom in essentially. It doesn't always look as great, especially when I'm pushing it that far, so I don't expect that to be like amazing or anything, but it's still, if it comes out clear enough, I'll be happy. But yeah, plenty of gulls, geese, loons, sandpipers maybe, or cranes. I don't know. I don't have the bird book with me. I leave it at home, so I don't know at this point, but I'll go home and look and see what I actually saw today when I review the footage, which might be a month from now because I've got quite a backlog to go through. But yeah, good day, good time. It's good to get back to it. It's been a bit. I was concerned that I've been out because both of basically 2 of the 3 weeks that I talked about this morning where I was out for being sick, and then the side effects of the vaccine kept me from doing any kind of exercise or physical activity, and I could just feel myself wasting back down to where I've been trying the last few months to build up to the point where I can carry, God, I don't know, 100 pounds. It's a lot. That camera's heavy. I should get a scale and measure it sometime just for my own knowledge of how much am I actually carrying. That backpack is heavy when it's got everything. So yeah, it takes a lot. There's a physical toll, and that's why I'm doing this now. Even if I don't quite have the time for it because I work a 40-hour-a-week job, the more I can get done now, the less I have to worry about the fact that I'll get too old and I physically won't be able to do this anymore. But anyway, yeah, great day, great wildlife, lots of fun. I'd like to, we'll see where we wind up, maybe tomorrow or Sunday, I don't know. I might take tomorrow off because we've got D&D tonight, and that usually winds up going a bit later. I don't go to bed as early. But anyway, yeah. Yep.